Hi everybody, welcome to the Word at One for Tuesday, December 14th. It is Tuesday in the Prophets, and we are continuing a little bit of what we looked at yesterday in the Gospel of Matthew. So the verses that we read in the Gospel of Matthew, it was a real challenge for all of us as we read that sometimes circumstances aren't what they seem, and God asks us to look deeper, to trust Him, to listen to His direction, even when we're kind of saying, I don't know, God, this doesn't quite look right. And in Joseph's situation, this was his fiance was going to have a baby, and an angel comes to him in a dream and says, don't worry, be sure to take Mary as your wife. It's okay. She's telling the truth, that the baby that is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. And on top of that, the angel gives Joseph instructions about Jesus and says, you are to name him Jesus, which in Aramaic means God saves. And this name is a name that was used throughout the Old Testament. So Joshua, Yeshua, God is our salvation. And then some prophets also had different variations and forms of this name. And Elisha is one of the prophets whose name means God saves. And he was the protege of Elijah, who was an incredibly powerful prophet. And when Elisha comes to the end of his life, so he has, of course, been saved many, many times. When he comes to the end of his life, then he is going to experience God's power still, even as the end of his life comes. So Elijah, as this is for 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 20 to 21, Elijah died and was buried. Now Moabite raiders used to enter the country every spring. Once, while some Israelites were burying a man, suddenly they saw a band of raiders. So they threw the man's body onto Elisha's tomb. When the body touched Elisha's bones, the man came to life and stood up on his feet. So even though Elisha is long gone in terms of his physical body and even his spiritual soul, God is still using him powerfully. And as I was praying about this passage today and praying about this Word at One today, every day I try to kind of give a challenge first to myself and then to all of us who are watching in terms of what God would be calling us to today, because we live day by day. And yesterday it was to maybe look at circumstances and people a little deeper, to ask for God's perspective on them, that things are never usually what they seem. And then also today, looking at this story of Elisha and just the power of even his bones. That a lot of times we have situations or circumstances in our lives where we say, well, that's just dead and gone. God is done with me, it's over. But there is no circumstance that God can't bring life out of and redemption out of. So even these old dry bones in a grave brought life to someone. And it seemed to be by mistake. It was just, okay, we got to throw this somewhere. And it's amazing how God brought this resurrected life out of this. But we have to always stay focused on what God's goals are, the way God looks at the world. It's always through redemption, through resurrection, resurrection life. With the third day that Jesus rose from the dead, He is always looking at the world through what brings life, even when we look at it and say, oh, there's death there, there's an end there, there's a cutting off there. God looks at it and says, wait and see what it is that I'm going to do. See you all tomorrow.